Welcome to the Peter Stevens Motorcycles Vic MX Recap Show, presented by Moto Cred. Peter Stevens Motorcycles have been supporting grassroots racing for 50 years and continue to do so with the Peter Stevens Victorian Motocross Championship. Peter Stevens have over 6 locations with Ringwood and Dandenong in the southeast of Melbourne, Geelong and Adelaide, along with the new stores. PS are now in Perth and Western Sydney. Stocking all major apparel and parts brands, manufacturers and more, Peter Stevens, everything for the ride. Presented by Moto Cred, Moto Cred have over 600 products to suit your bike, from tools, stands, foot pegs, levers, and everything else to bling out your dirt bike. To view the range, visit www.motocred.com.au.
My name's Cooper Danaher, and you're listening to the Peter Stevens Vic MX Recap Show.
There were times I was lost, dark had fear, couldn't see through the rain. In the end it was clear, hit the fan. I was more than one man who was there to lend a hand. Together we'd stand, always at my back, my guardian soldier. Team pulled together, united we conquer. Blessed is he who in the name of charity carry me when I'm weak straight through the valley of darkness. Pitch blackness, the heartless, regardless, fear couldn't part us. Thick and thin, there by my side. At times we collide, but in the end we ride. Thick and thin, there by my side. At times we collide, but in the end we ride. We ride, ride. I am my brother's keeper. Keep on holding strong. United we stand, divided we fall. Together we belong. I am my brother's keeper. Keep on holding strong. United we stand, divided we fall. Together we belong. I am my brother's keeper. I am my brother's keeper. I am my brother's keeper.
Welcome back, Moto fans. For the second year in a row, we are bringing you the Peter Stevens Vic MX Show, presented by Moto Cred, where we take a deep dive into every aspect of the Peter Stevens Victorian Motocross Championship. On behalf of Mental for Moto, I'm your host, Pete Wolf, and joining me in the Moto Asylum once again is both an accomplished racer and a sales executive at PS. Welcome, Dean Mosig.
Thanks, Pete. Pleasure to be back, mate. Thank you.
It's always good having you in studio. Before we talk about this year's championship, what's been happening in the world of Dino and PS?
Yeah, lots of things are happening. We had a really successful year with Yamaha last year. We were the number one manufacturer for Australia and took out a couple of categories as well. Number one selling road bike for the country was the R7,
Yep.
the Lunar approved one, and followed by the R3, number 1 and 2. We took out number one off-road motocross bike category with the YZ450F and the 250F. So yeah, we had a really good year with Yamaha last year, something to be very proud of.
I know there's been like a lot of things going on with the economy at the moment. Second-hand bike sales are a little bit slow, and it's obviously all looking like it's going to pick up again this year. How's like sales and business going in the moto industry side of things?
Yeah, we're definitely riding the waves.
Yep.
We're very fortunate to have some fantastic assistance from our manufacturers in the likes of, promotions, low finance, cashback, things like that to continue to incentivize people to buy. Without that assistance, I think we'd be really struggling. But we're definitely just riding through the storm at the moment. I think everybody's feeling the pinch. I don't necessarily just believe it's our motorcycle industry. I know a lot of the building and trade economy is going through a little bit of a situation at the moment where it's not as busy as they used to. So yeah, there's obviously some, a bit of a sniff of some light at the end of the tunnel. There's talk of, an RBA rate drop for end of Feb, and, hopefully that'll inspire some consumer confidence moving into March and, potentially towards the second quarter. We're hopeful for things to really start turning around. Yeah,
despite everything that's sort of going on, one thing that for me has been super noticeable, and I don't want this to turn into like an infomercial, but I've been stoked with how much PS is actually still backing like the grassroots motocross scene. I see on like Instagram, heaps of junior riders are getting support from PS. They're still backing the Victorian Motocross Championship. They help me out with my calendars. They're backing this podcast. Like, it's just, they're all in when it comes to grassroots motocross, aren't they?
Yeah, despite the weather or despite the economy, our core values don't change.
Yep.
And everything that we want to obviously stand for and represent as a business in terms of our business, our ethics, and that we won't let a bit of a slower economy change that in any way, shape or form. If anything, we're doubling down on our efforts to continue to give people some support to keep going racing and to keep supporting the sport that supports us.
Yeah.
Bit of a tongue twister, that one.
No, it's been, like I said, it's definitely stood out to me at a time when a lot of people are tightening their belts, and that's allowing the sport to still thrive and continue. And I think this year we're going to build off a year last year that was already very successful in Victoria, and hopefully really see the sport continue to grow in that upward trajectory.
That's what we're here for, man.
Yeah. So before we get talking about the championship, we had some issues with MA and MV, and we already discussed this a little bit off air. No one really seems to know what was going on, but at one stage it looked like racing in Victoria might not happen this year. But fortunately, it looks like all that's resolved, and everything seems to be now on the right track, and it looks like we're going to have an unbridled year of racing again.
Yeah, it was scary for a moment there. I was, on the receiving end of some of those internal email chains and things like that, and very hard for me to understand some of the legality side of those conflicts between Motorcycling Australia and Motorcycling Victoria. But to my understanding, it was an 11th hour agreement. We actually had our Blue Rock Peter Stevens club coaching event in which we needed permits for, which was on the Saturday, and we didn't get the okay from MV until I think 11 o'clock on the Thursday night.
Yeah, yep.
Then we had our permits processed on the Friday. The event was already booked well in advance. Riders had paid everything, so it was a little bit tongue-in-cheek.
Yep.
But yeah, look, they obviously got there in the end, and, we're super fortunate to be able to go racing this year and continue to do what we love to do, man.
Yeah, I know there was a lot of riders and clubs freaking out, but the good news is it's game on now.
It's game on. It's play on. Yep.
So again, we're back doing the podcast. We're going to do recap shows after every round, so every junior round, every senior round. Last year the podcast went really well. I was actually blown away at how much of a following like the state scene would have. I sort of wasn't expecting it. Like I said already, it's awesome that PS are back on board. We're going to do the same thing this year. We're going to run a similar format. We're going to get lots of riders on to interview. But have you got any feedback from that from your end?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was just a rejuvenated sense of media and rider marketability that we weren't accustomed to in the past. It gave riders an ability to give themselves a platform to show the industry and sponsors alike, not just what they are capable of on a motorbike, but some personality traits and things like that. We understand in this day and age that, having sponsors and having that sort of responsibility to represent companies isn't necessarily all about your ability to ride a motorcycle well. We definitely know as a company that, a lot of the people and the riders that we sponsor have fantastic personalities. They're approachable, they're likable, they're friendly, they come from good families, etc., and things like that. With this new age, with all different sort of content available in terms of what we see from our favourite riders, their own YouTube channels, and things like that. I know personally that's really all I watch at home.
Yeah.
I'm watching the Chase Sexton YouTube stuff or the Lawrence ones or all those sort of things. So personality is a lot more applicable these days, and for good reason too, So yeah, the feedback was fantastic. Having riders to have a voice and ultimately give their sponsors a voice too was really good. And I think this year, perhaps the people that were maybe a little scared or a little hesitant to throw themselves out in the deep end and put themselves in the limelight, I think this year will be a chance for them to do that. So, yeah, the feedback collectively has been fantastic.
No, awesome. And we'll be doing all the add-on stuff as well, like still doing podium interviews at each round and giving every class a chance to have their opportunity to do their podium interviews. So we'll change that up at each round. So, one round might be A grade, next round will be B grade, next round might be C grade. And we'll mix that up a little bit so everyone gets an opportunity. We'll be doing some post-race interviews with anyone that wants to do them. So if the riders are listening and you want to do a post-race interview for the camera that we can use to promote the series and just put on socials, and you can use it yourself as well, by all means.
And it really is incentivizing, to have that publicity and that professional experience. We all watch our favourite riders on the podium, make a speech, on the Supercross or at the Pro MX or the AMA Nationals or the MXGP or whatever it is. We've all idolised that type of, post-race interview, things like that. To be having that at a state level and that, it is actually incentivising and, to some degree even motivating, to say, hey, I want to get on the box and I want to have my 15 minutes of fame, I think it's fantastic. The post-race interviews last year were fantastic. Obviously, we had the big backdrops and everything like that that made it look really professional too. That played a big role. So, yeah, I just think taking the sport to a higher level of professionalism only gives it a much higher level of prestige too.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not just a series that people race. It's becoming something bigger than that.
Yeah. And like you touched on, I think my favourite part about that was that it was actually fun, and got to unveil and meet a lot of the riders for the first time and chat to a lot of the riders, but see their actual personalities come out in front of the camera, and some of them don't mind having a laugh and a joke, and some are a little bit more nervous, so it's a great experience for those guys to come out of their shells a little bit. So that was probably one of my favourite aspects of the media that we did for the series was those interviews.
And again, it's something that's never been done, definitely not on a state level. Yeah, so I think we're definitely pioneering some positive change.
No, fantastic. It was interesting. I just had Mark Hancock on the podcast, and he actually rated the Victorian series and its potential to be at the same level as sort of the Pro MX. Like, he sees the state rounds and the Pro MX rounds sort of all being in that same upper level. So I think the goal is, there to try get what we do at the state level to be sort of that same sort of caliber ultimately as some of the Pro MX content that comes out in terms of quality and availability and accessibility to the riders.
It's funny you say that. So it was the Shepparton round last year. I got my uncle Trevor to come and spin spanners for me.
Yep.
He's got a world of knowledge under that hat of his. And, in his absence from the sport for the last 5 or 6 years, at the end of the day, I said to him, hey, from an outsider's perspective, stepping back in, how do you see the health of the series and how do you see the health of the sport in Victoria? And he said, mate, it looks fantastic.
Yeah.
For 5 or 6 years of being away from the scene and to come back, he said, mate, the way that the series was ran, the adaptation of new classes, he was really impressed that on the Saturday they had the junior 250 guys racing with the senior guys. And, that's what he said. The junior guys never in the past got to race a rough senior track. So having the junior, MX3 and junior 250 guys racing with the seniors on the Saturday at a senior round helps that transition from junior rider to senior classes and stuff like that. So, yeah, another interesting perspective and a good way to reflect on the growth that our series has had in the last few years. And it is, like, last year really was an enjoyable season. Obviously, the tracks and the clubs really did well with their preparation, and the events themselves ran really good. Mark and his team at MA and MV never miss a beat.
Yeah, for sure.
They're the best of the best. So, yeah, I'm really hopeful and excited that this year follows suit. And I know it will.
Yeah.
I know it will. Leading off the confidence that it inspired in everybody last year to get behind the state series and do that, I think we've really set ourselves up for a successful year.
Yeah. One of the things I definitely loved last year, looking at things through the lens especially, was all the banners and branding and flags, and it built like such a much more professional and just exciting atmosphere than like when I do regional rounds and there's not any of that. It sometimes feels a little bit flat visually. That sort of stuff to me adds that extra layer, and like I think the last 3 or 4 rounds there was kids on the sidelines with kazoos and those whistles that were cheering on their mates. Like that whole thing, it definitely adds another layer that for me makes it really special.
It does. It's not quite chainless chainsaws and flares like the MXGP yet, but it definitely is. And it's interesting that you say that. So we work closely with the Rosebud Club as well, being a sponsor of the club, and everything that they did, even with the Sandmasters last year, and wanting the signage and things like that. I've been speaking with the president of the club back and forth about trying to get even more signage and even more, brand assimilation into those rounds because of the experience that it builds for the riders, for the fans, for everyone. It's ultimately building an experience for the rider too. It's not just a race,
Correct, yeah.
And I think in the past, where the mentality with the series was, like it was like you're lucky to be racing this kind of thing. Where now I think it's like we're building an experience for the riders, and we're going to these extra lengths to give them an experience that makes them feel like a professional rider.
100%. Yep.
You know what I mean? And that adaptation of professional mindset attracts professional riders, and that I think we're going to have some serious Pro MX riders come and do some of these rounds this year, with the exception of, the Vic title before Wonthaggi National being the first round of the Vics at Wonthaggi. And again, round two, of the Vic titles at Traralgon before the Traralgon National. We're going to have some interstate heavy hitters at the state rounds again, so it's exciting. I'm very excited, even as a fan of the sport. I very much think that, with the exception of me riding expert vets on the Saturdays, there's a good chance I'm going to stick around and watch on the Sundays.
Yep.
Seriously, as a fan of the sport, as well as a racer, it's good, man.
Yeah. And like you said, we've got so many top level, pro level racers here in Victoria that I think last year some of those guys opted to race some of the other tracks around Australia in preparation for the Pro MX, but having those 2 rounds now at the Vic titles and then later on at the Pro MX, we're going to get those guys, we're going to keep them, retain them for the Vic Championship. I think they're going to come race to prepare for the Pro MX.
Yep.
But like you said, we're also going to get those riders from New South Wales and Queensland and South Australia come over because they're not going to want our local boys to have the unfair advantage. So
Correct.
Yeah, gate drops on those tracks, and I know with Traralgon that's going to be changed up a lot, that track in preparation. Yeah. So there's going to be very limited opportunities to ride that in the Pro MX spec before the Pro MX, but the Vic title is going to be one of those.
Yep. What better way to practice on a track you're going to race on by racing it?
Yeah, for sure.
No better.
For sure. So while we're on that topic, we might as well just go through the rounds. So the tracks and the locations are almost the same as last year, except we're swapping around the junior tracks and the senior tracks. So the juniors that raced last year are going to be racing the same tracks that the seniors raced last year, and vice versa, with a couple of small changes. So for the juniors, we've got Portland, which the seniors raced on last year, and that was an amazing track.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, so that's going to be the first junior round, and I hope for the juniors it doesn't run up quite like it did for you guys.
Yeah, I think without having the 450s there, I don't think it will. But again, with the exception of the junior guys, the 50s and 65s and that, they'll prep the track accordingly. But, for the junior lights guys and 125 and 250, they'll still get a rough track.
Yeah, for sure.
They will,
Sure.
And the kids that are looking to step into professional ranks and ride those kind of tracks, that's the biggest thing that I think I personally struggle with is the shock factor of the tracks that we practice on, which are fantastic.
Yep.
But the way that they shape up isn't the way that they shape up at the races.
Yes.
So, I've been riding when I can at home, and, we've got Hastings just down the road from me, which is fantastic. I go to PBI and a few other places, but I went and did a practice day at Wonthaggi on the weekend just gone, and they hadn't prepped it. They'd left it rough.
Yep.
All the Beatons boys had been riding it. They'd had 2 or 3 practice days during the week. And, as soon as I got out there, it was big square edge bumps, long ruts, as if it was the third moto of the day. And the shock factor hit me because I thought, man, I haven't ridden a track like this since I raced last year. You know what I mean? And that's the biggest thing. So I think the more experience we get to riding these rougher tracks, the better we're going to be prepared to race them, which is really good. So, yeah, I'll tell you what, I was humbled pretty quick riding a rough track last week.
And even you come into those those days and you feel fit, and then you ride a real race spec track and those sort of conditions, and all of a sudden you realise that there might be something lacking sometimes.
Yeah, bit of false confidence maybe, but no, it's really good. And again, as I've gotten older, I've really learned to love riding those conditions too.
Yeah.
Being a bit older and being okay with going a bit slower. I really enjoy the fundamental side of it, of the technique and, knowing you got to ride on the balls of your feet or stand up or ride around the bumps, that's a big one for me.
Yeah, choice. Yeah.
Learn to ride around the bumps and think outside the box and not ride the main lines and things like that. That challenging component of riding a rough track for me, I really enjoy.
Yep.
And that's where Portland was fun last year.
Yes.
It wasn't a track you could go out and hammer. It was very much, slot car racing to some degree. Some of those ruts were, halfway down the entry to the corner to halfway down the straight, you know. And again, it was a challenge that it almost took the racing side of it out of it for me, and I was learning to just ride the track properly and then, pick people off as you figured it out. But all the tracks last year were fantastic. Like Monza Park was one of the best prep racetracks I've ever raced.
Yep.
Last year, the way that it rutted up and got rough, and it's an iconic circuit when it's prepped like that. So yeah, I think we're going to be very lucky with the track selections we have this year too. Yeah. Horsham's another fantastic one.
Yep.
Kenny Watts and his crew up there know how to prep a track really good, and yeah, it's going to be really fun.
And having that experience of all these tracks, or most of these tracks being on the circuit last year as well, like all the clubs themselves know how to prep, what to expect. And so I think we're in for a great year. So round 2 for the juniors, we go to Winton. Round 3, we're at Goulburn Valley, which we only got one day in last year because we got rained out. So it'd be good to see a whole weekend there.
Sure, for sure.
And then we finish up with the juniors in August at Ballarat, which I'm really excited about. Like you just said, that was from a media perspective and photography perspective, that was probably my equal favourite round with Blue Rock. I love the elevation. I think that just adds a perspective.
Natural elevation. Yep.
And a depth to all the visual media that you don't get necessarily on a flat track. So I'm excited for Ballarat again.
Yeah, and those sort of tracks, unfortunately, are a bit of a dying breed too. Those natural terrain, hills and undulation and elevation and things like that.
Yeah.
So I hope to see them stick around for a long time. There's a lot more housing and stuff around Blue Rock, I notice now, and it's making me a bit nervous. I hope to see that track around for many years to come. Oh, for sure. But they've got that Moto Park, like Motor Park, next to it with the road racing track as well. And correct. Yep.
So hopefully that sort of protects that zone a little bit. We've got to preserve what we've got. There's we're certainly not finding too many new motocross tracks popping up. Certainly not race circuits. So
no, definitely not. Man, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Oh, yeah. All right, for the senior rounds, as we already mentioned, round 1 is Wonthaggi, so that kicks off next weekend. Then for round 2, we head off to Traralgon, which is going to be an all-new track layout. It's going to be rip deep. They're going to have some real big jumps on it.
Really?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
So they mentioned that at the ride day last week. So that's they've been working on that. They're going to be working on that right up until the Prime X. It's obviously going to be ready for to race on for the state round.
Awesome. Which
is in May. Then we go to Horsham, which is one of the new rounds for this year for the state series that wasn't on the series last year.
Yep.
Which is going to be really good. They always run a great race up there, and it's a great facility.
Yeah, one of my favourite tracks, to be honest. Yeah, I really enjoy Horsham, especially when it ruts up and it's tacky, and and again, it's another track that has a couple of uphills and downhills, and has a whoop section.
Yeah,
not many tracks we race on has a whoop section.
They got doubles,
a couple of double sections. A big step up the back.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's got some elevation there as well.
It does.
It's not like on a hill, but it's got a lot of natural ups and downs and valleys.
It does. Yeah, and it's fast. It's fast in spots too. So yeah, that's definitely one of my favourite tracks too.
Yeah. Yep. I went there for the Prime X last year, and I would love to see another race there. I think that's going to be fantastic. I really enjoyed that track too, and having guys like Kenny Watts from up that way and Mark Hancock, like those guys know how to hold a race and prep a track.
Oh, yeah.
So
no, they do. They've got Horsham.
That's going to be a good one. And then we finish up the senior rounds at Cobram in August as well. So the series is kind of spread out a little bit this year.
It is. Yeah. And it's an interesting approach too, rather than just bang, 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 towards the middle of the year. It's actually kind of good. It kind of gives a sense of longevity to the season.
Yes.
We're starting in February, we're ending in August, and obviously we race our regionals and, club rounds, nationals, in between. It definitely makes the season feel that little bit longer if it's the same amount of races.
Yep.
But it definitely feels a little longer, which, I think it's a good approach. We're starting a bit earlier in the year, so it's forced people like myself to go, shit, I better start riding here. You know what I mean? I haven't really been doing a lot of riding in that, but Yeah, it's good, and perhaps we can have some better weather opportunities. There's normally, without fail, at least one round of the Vic titles every year I've ever raced since I was 15. There's normally one washout.
Yes, yeah.
Which seems to be inevitable, but, if we can avoid that, then, I think that'd be a really, really good thing.
Yeah. Well, we got pretty lucky last year with the weekends that the races were held were pretty much all good except for that one day at Goulburn Valley on the Sunday.
Yep.
But beyond that, like we had a couple of weekends and rounds where there was a lot of rain in the lead up. But on the weekend itself, the track crews did an amazing job getting the track back into shape, and we still had good racing, and it led to a lot of ruts last year. Like just off the top of my head, we had Portland, Curramborough in the junior rounds was super ruddy.
Yep.
Ballarat was amazing. All the rounds, like they certainly weren't prepped like regional tracks. They were a lot more akin to what we see at the pro level.
Yeah, it was. It really was. Yep. Again, it sort of just brought that feeling of prestige to the series. Like you go to a club day sometimes, and granted, they can't really warrant doing the work to get the track to that level to have 40 riders or anything. And I think people underestimate the amount of work that a club has to do to get not only the track ready for a race meet, but the facility itself. And, especially you throw 30, 40 mil of rain into the mix, a handful of days before the event, and the amount of work that they have to do to turn it over, to drain the water, to seal it where they can in preparation, all that kind of stuff. It takes a team of people. And, in a total applause for the clubs, they don't have teams of people.
Yes.
Normally it's 3 or 4 dudes.
Yep.
They
do everything, yeah.
Yeah, and, every now and then they might get a couple of volunteers. So I really tip my hat off to the clubs, not only last year, but every year.
Yeah, for sure.
And, I think having them get a little bit of recognition through platforms like this and whatnot, ultimately I think will just, remotivate and re-inspire them to continue doing such a great job.
No, totally.
Yep.
And, yeah, man, I said it before, like I wasn't planning to do and follow the state series last year. At the start of the year, like early in the year, I was going to do the Pro MX and the Supercross and maybe a couple of regional events. And then the opportunity came up, and it turned out to be my favourite series of the year. I got excited in the lead up. I love being there at the races. I love going through the content after. I love doing the post-race podcasts. So this year, of all the things that I've got lined up in the calendar, mate, the Victorian Championship is it's up there. It's the thing I'm most excited about this year, to get back into it. So and see those tracks again, and see how they shape up this year, and how it's different, how it's the same. It's for me, it's definitely something I'm super excited about.
That makes 2 of us, Pete.
Yep. So we sort of spoke a little bit off air about some of the riders that are going to be racing this year. We've already mentioned that some of the Pro MX riders might end up doing at least a couple of the rounds. Hopefully they end up doing the whole championship, but we'll definitely see them at some of the rounds. And we're not going to go into it too in depth, because that's something that we can save for the recap shows after the racing has happened. But just as a bit of a preview, a few changes this year in the rider lineups between the juniors and the seniors, and just sort of what we can expect. So from the juniors, we've actually got quite a few of the elite riders that are stepping up to seniors this year. Guys like Memphis Trevina, Seb Bartlett, Jesse Kolb, they're all stepping up to seniors. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really going to open the door for some of the junior 125 and 250 riders to make a name for themselves. Guys like Noah James, Job Dunn, like highly touted riders.
Yep.
And even like newcomer Zane Hohouse, who raced and won the C-grade championship last year. And then he was going to go to B-grade this year, and then raced at Warrnambool and did really well. And then they just went, no, you're an A-grade guy. So he's going to enter the mix with those A-grade guys this year as well. So
good for him, man. Yeah, good for him. I love seeing that.
Of course, we're going to see some of the big dogs back in MX1 and MX2. Bryce Ognenis, so two-time Victorian champion.
Yep.
Mac O'Bree, who won the MX2 championship last year. Yep. Wilson Daish, who was leading at points in the championship, but had some
big crash at Ballarat.
That was
scary.
That was on one of the big downhill tables.
Downhill tabletop, hit that kicker. Yeah, I was on the line watching I seen that unfold, and that was a nasty one. So good to see he's okay and back riding and everything that. But yeah,
he was actually on a blue bike at Wonthaggi last week.
I did see that. Yeah.
Yep.
None of my doing. I didn't have anything to do with that. But yeah, I was pleased to see him on a blue bike.
Yeah. Jacob Sweet.
Yep.
Kate Dunscombe, and maybe even Joel Milicevic, talking to him. Yeah, I hadn't seen him ride too much apart from Blue Rock last year, and I was behind the camera, so obviously he won every race at Blue Rock last year when he did the final round.
On a 2-stroke?
No, he had a borrowed 4-stroke at that round.
He did too.
Picked it up on the way and dominated some very accomplished riders. Yeah, he'll probably be on the 2-stroke this year if he does race, and I would love to see him because at that coaching clinic that you guys did out at Blue Rock, having a chance to actually watch him ride a little bit more closely, he has got to be up there skills-wise with, like in my eyes, with your Kyle Websters and your Jed Beatons. Like he's on another level with his ability on the bike.
And his knowledge.
Yep.
His ability to ride a different track that we ride in terms of the way he opens up the track and shows you lines and how, creating a flow and things like that. I've got a ton of respect for Joel. I've helped him with a couple of his own schools, over the years and things like that. And, this year I'll be working a lot closer with Emma and him at a lot of their schools and stuff too. But he's been around for a long time too,
Yes.
like he was a top 10, pro MX guy as a privateer for a long time, top 10, top 15 guy, very established junior rider too. Yeah, just a great dude. I love his coaching approach too.
Yes.
It's straight to the point and very direct, but just so knowledgeable.
Yeah, a bit of a preview. We're going to get Joel on the podcast in early March, so I've got him booked in. One of the things I loved, being coached by him, he looks at things differently to everyone that I've ever spoken to from a rider. And like you said, one of those things is the lines, like the way he sees the track, the details he notices on the track and is able to utilize those details, whether it's a little hole or a rut, and take advantage of those things. It just blew me away. And then he does it. He talks about it, but then he goes and does it, and he hits a little hole that's 400 mil long and 50 mil deep at Mark 10 and banks off it and is able to use that to get around the track.
Yeah, and that just comes from years and years and years of experience too.
Yeah.
Like that, that sort of stuff can be taught, but it has to be learnt, to be able to teach that. And yeah, he's one of my favourite riders to watch too. He keeps the 2-stroke legacy alive, that's for sure. He rides a 2-stroke better than just about anyone.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So yeah, fingers crossed, hopefully we get to see him at least some of the rounds, if not all of the senior championship.
Yep, that'd be great.
Yep.
Glad he's not in the vets class.
Yeah. Well, he's not too far off. I think he's 29, so he's going to be knocking on that door very soon. Hayden Van Deventer, another fast kid, trains with Oates MX, going to be back this year. He had some misfortune last year, had his bike stolen at the start of the year, so that definitely was a bit of a setback. But I think he's all in now with the training in the lead up, so it'd be great to see him out there. Riley Futchko, so he's back again. Then we're going to have some junior standouts as well. Lewis Carafa, Mason Ezagalis, Coop Dog Danaher, Riley Delaney, Dylan Gromble from South Australia. There's so many junior riders now that are, I'm really excited to see again this year as well.
Same here. Yeah. Lewis J obviously is a stellar young talent and a distinguished young gentleman too. He's a very, very well-spoken young kid. Noah James is another favourite of mine.
Yes.
Yeah, another very well-spoken, polite, fantastic mannerisms. Just a lovely kid. Coop Dog, obviously we always have great things to say about Coop Dog and Timmy and Claire and his family and things like that. So, yeah, it's great to see, good things happen for good people, as much as there's not an abundance of support for those junior riders and stuff out there, just to see them do well and just love what they're doing is great. You know what I mean? Whatever the sport takes them and whatever futures they have ahead of them is going to be what it's going to be. But yeah, it's really a pleasure to see, and just the level of talent that they're bringing to the sport. I think, everybody talks about the golden era back in the day where we had a particular era of some really, really fast junior riders.
Yeah.
I think we're stepped back into that.
I think so too, yep.
Now, I think some of the junior talent over the last few years, but especially right now, they're going to be the future superstars.
Yes.
The ones that we look back in, 5, 6, 7 years ago, man, when they were in juniors, the level was rah-rah. And maybe, I could be proven wrong where in 5, 6 years we're looking at the current future of the current junior generation going, man, it's even higher again and higher again, but yeah, at the minute, there are definitely some future superstars in our junior lineup.
Totally agree. I think the depth of the riders in the junior championship was one thing I noticed last year. From C grade all the way through to A grade, there is so much depth. There's great numbers on the gates in all of those junior classes, even in everything from your 50cc and up. The junior girls, I think the future of the sport at the moment, if we can keep those riders in the sport and talking to them at the interviews, a lot of them have ambitions to make it to the highest levels, which is really cool as well. Like you said, I think we're at the beginning of another golden era in the sport.
Superstar generation.
Yep. And I think we saw it moving it up to the pro ranks this year, watching the MX3 and SX3 riders, those opportunities that they're now getting as juniors to cut their teeth and hone their skills and compete at those high levels, whether it's state or national. I think that's what's going to make the strength of the sport in Australia and the ability of these riders to compete even internationally, like we saw at the Motocross of Nations. I think we've got a lot more of that for a small country with a small population. These juniors they're going to make a statement on the world scene in the future if they stick with it.
Yeah. A lot of and same with New Zealand. There's some emerging NZ talent that's coming through. We're all watching Cole Davies now, obviously in the AMA, but he's the byproduct of years and years and years of coaching under Ben Townley and all those guys in New Zealand to be ready for Supercross. You've got Levi and Jagger Townley, a couple other really fast New Zealand kids coming up too, which I think New Zealand hasn't had an overly prosperous time in terms of having world-class riders and that, apart from the BT days and things like that. So go the Aussie New Zealand tribe.
But it all starts at this grassroots level.
It does.
If this level isn't preparing them for those later years, they're never really going to reach that potential. But I think everything is gearing up to make those riders and get the most of them in the future.
100%, man.
All right, we've got a little bit sidetracked, so we'll get back to the Vic title stuff. For the women's class, we've got a few changes this year as well. We've got some juniors stepping up. Maddie Healy's back after her injury last year.
Yeah.
So she's going to be a contender, so that's fantastic. Emily Lambert's stepping up from juniors to senior women's. So she raced the Pro MX last year. She's super strong. She won the junior girls Vic title last year. So I think she's going to step straight into that challenger seat.
She challenged Charlie Cannon at a national last year. She was second behind.
Oh, she was in second at I think it was at Gilman or Murray Bridge. It was one of the South Australian rounds.
Yeah.
But she was ahead of some very accomplished senior women at that stage.
Yep. I remember that being a bit of a standout. Yeah.
Yep. So she's going to be fantastic. Kaylee Cameron, who came second actually in the Vic titles last year.
Yep.
So she'll be back again. Unfortunately, we're not going to see Emma Milesevic race this year.
We will be seeing a lot of Emma though.
Yes.
Yeah. So obviously, Peter Stevens, Yamaha Australia, and myself, we're obviously very pleased to announce a new partnership that we've developed with Emma. She's obviously retired from professional racing. She had some injuries and some health issues over the course of the last couple of seasons that became pretty hard to manage, and for her. So her new company, Empower Coaching. So she's really, really focused on obviously empowering riders, but empowering females to get into the sport and not necessarily to become racers, giving them the confidence to want to have a go, to learn, to try, and then, giving them the knowledge that she has, but the safe environment for them to come and learn and have a go, through speaking with Emma and some of her plans that she's got coming up. She's got some really cool events that are going to, she's got a couple of girls only schools that she'll be doing. We're going to help her out with, the track. I believe we're going to try and utilise Hastings and things like that, and have some thinking outside the box kind of approach to not only encourage and empower females to ride, but even as people, to give them skills and to try new things and stuff like that. And ultimately, with our adaptation to working with Yamaha, the design behind that was to give Emma a manufacturer to work with that could offer a bike for every rider, whether or not they're starting out on a TDR 50, a Pee-wee 50, some of the junior races needing a 65 two-stroke, an 85 two-stroke, a 125 two-stroke, all through the fun bike range, TDR 125, 230, to then, your YZ 250, 450 and things like that. Yamaha was the best fit for her because they have a bike for every single caliber of her riders, So we're really excited for this partnership. It's something that we're very proud of. We also want to encourage women riders to enter the space and have a go and learn to ride a dirt bike, whatever that does for their confidence or their lifestyle or whatever. We want to encourage that. So Emma's going to be doing some really good events this year, and obviously Peter Stevens and Yamaha Australia and ultimately Fox. Yep. She's staying with Fox as a Fox rider and ambassador too, so that fits perfectly with Peter Stevens being our main brand that we sell. So we'll be seeing a lot more of Emma this year. I dare say she'll still be at the races. Yep. Working with some of the riders that she trains and stuff too. So we'll still be seeing her around a lot.
Yeah, and I think there isn't really a better person you could ask for to represent women's motorsport, women's motocross, not only as a rider, but as a role model, like you've already said.
Oh, just as a person, man. Yep. Yeah, just such a well-mannered, polite, just a gem. Yeah, yep. She really is an icon of our Australian motocross, truthfully, yeah.
No, for sure. So, we'll move on from the riders. Like I said, we could go down a massive rabbit hole. There's across the championship, there's 500 riders between the juniors and seniors. So we'll stay away
Leave
from
that for the review show.
That can of worms.
Yep.
Team news. So Winner Motorcycles, which was one of our privateer teams last year, has picked up the gig to be representing Triumph Australia and are now the factory Triumph team. So that's pretty cool. And I believe you do a little bit with Triumph at PS as well?
Yeah, so PSI or Peter Stevens Importers, we are the importer of Triumph.
Yep.
So Triumph come directly through the PS group. So it is. It's a big thing for us as an importer, but ultimately for Triumph too, to be stepping into the motocross scene. You got to remember, Triumph have been a motorcycle company for over 100 years.
Yeah.
And a very established one at that in their own right. So to be entering a new space and for us to obviously be right behind that is exciting. We've got some plans to set up some sort of marquee things and have some people from Triumph come to the races and see it firsthand and experience. They might not have experienced a pro national or a motocross event like that. So it is very exciting. Paul Adams, who's the man behind the operation at Winner, he's very focused and very motivated, and he knows exactly what he wants from his riders and the team and the events and things like that. So it's very exciting to see someone take that and go, hey, you know what, we think we're the best fit. We're gonna really try and get this brand out there, and we're gonna get riders on bikes. They've obviously, it's out now, but they signed Jack Simpson. So Jack will be back full time in Australia, racing Pro MX and Oz Supercross, I believe, and he will be doing desert racing as well. So Hatter, I believe. Not sure about Fink, but talk of another rider coming soon. I can't lift the lid off that. But there's a good chance that there'll be another rider under that.
Can you say which class?
Nope.
Nope.
There's a lot of exciting things happening in that space, and again, PS are right behind that for them too.
Yeah.
Yep.
And is Jack going to be based in Victoria?
Yes.
So we'll see him at the Vic Championships?
Yeah. I've seen him riding out at Hastings last week.
Yeah. I've seen him out there a few times. Man, he rips for an off-road guy. That's his bread and butter.
He's got motocross roots.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
he
was
rips
a
on a track
before he went over there. Yep. And good supercross rider too. It's good to see Jack back.
Yeah, well, as well as Jack, they've also got Ty Keane and Connor Adams, who are, again, two more strong riders that are also racing at the Pro MX level as well.
Correct.
Yep, and they'll be doing the Vic Championships. All right, so a lot of the classes are going to be very similar to last year. So we're going to have, obviously, at the seniors, the day with the All Powers and the women's, and the vets, of course. So I can't forget you guys, the most important. Yeah, age before beauty.
Right.
And then the Sunday we'll see the MX1 and MX2 classes.
Mm-hmm.
We're also going to see, instead of having a junior 250 class at the senior rounds, an MX3 class, and it's going to be very similar to what we do at the Pro MX, but it's going to be a qualifier class for the Victorian riders that are going to race the MXGP later this year.
In Darwin, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that in itself is huge. Not only the riders having a chance to qualify for that, but just for the fact that Australia is hosting an MXGP.
Yes.
I believe, I could be wrong, but the last time Australia hosted an MXGP was Broadford in 2001. Best part of 24 years ago.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys that are riding now weren't even alive when that happened.
It's kind of scary,
Isn't that scary to think? I vaguely remember, the Broadford MXGP. I remember going down and seeing it, but 2001, I was only 10.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good. Obviously, the riders having a chance to qualify to go and race that GP in Victoria is huge.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be the same with the 85s. I think the 85s are going to do the same with the top 6 in Victoria in the 85s are going to go through and get their spot on the MXGP as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So what I might do is after we finish up here, I might get Kenny Watts just on the phone and and because I know he knows all the details. He's got his fingers in that pie very deeply. So we'll get all the lowdown on that as well.
Yep, K-Dub's the man.
Yep, for sure. Well, I think that just about covers most of the key talking points for the Victorian Championship this year as our preview show. Did you have anything else that you sort of wanted to talk about or bring up?
Not necessarily. I think generally at the moment it's good to just kick off the conversation about the series. We're only a week out. It's going to be here before we know it. So I think looking forward to what I know is going to be a great round. Wonthaggi always put on an incredible track and facility and event. And yeah, I think getting into the review shows is going to be exciting. We're going to have a lot to talk about.
Oh, for sure. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I think this year the championship's going to be bigger than last year again.
Yep.
And so, we're going to see a very high caliber of racing.
Yep, no doubt. Don't forget the vet boys too.
Just without digressing too much, there's some fast riders in that vet class. So.
That 30-plus class, man, it's tough going. A lot of the guys that race that class obviously still ride MX1 on the Sunday.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I think there'll be some inductees into that class this year. A couple of guys have entered their 30s since last year that I know are really, really fast. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see who shows up at round 1.
For sure. There's definitely some Wonthaggi specialists in that vet class as well that, if they turn up, it's going to be game on for you guys.
I know, I'm not one of them, so.
Yeah, and we're going to have a 50-plus class this year as well.
Yes, I've seen that. Yeah,
yep.
So, and you know what? If that inspires some older vet riders to race, I know through some of the feedback I heard last year, a lot of vet riders were reluctant to go and race the 40-plus class because they felt it was unjust that they didn't have a 50-plus class, a lot of the guys that are in the 50s. So I'd love to see some OG vet guys, out there having a crack, with having a little bit more, I guess, confidence to go and race, knowing that, because, some of the 40 guys, the likes of, your Steve Powers and Cameron Taylors and, Corey Vanderleys and whatnot, they're as good as the young guys still, at 40. So, I think that's going to be a really good adaptation to the series as well.
For sure.
Yep. And America does that too. Loretta Lynn's over there. They've got, under 60s, under 55s, under, they go all the way through. Naturally, they've got a lot more riders that attend those events that they could justify and fill the classes. But, yeah, step in the right direction by MV, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the World Vets go up to 70-plus. So
yeah. Can you imagine being 70, bombing down the hill at Glen Helen?
That's the goal. That is the goal. The life goal.
Man.
Yeah.
Glen Helen at 30 is terrifying.
Well, I can't make it around Wonthaggi, so Glen Helen might be a bit of a stretch.
Yeah. No, for sure.
All right, so February 22 to 23, we hit Wonthaggi for round 1 and hope to see a bunch of you guys there.
Yep.
Thanks for coming in studio, Dean. We'll get on to Kenny Watts and just have a quick chat about the MXGP qualifying situation shortly. But, thanks for coming into the studio.
Look forward to what's going to be, no doubt, a sick year at racing, man.
No, thank you. And thanks to PS for backing the series again this year.
Yeah, no, thank you. It is good. Obviously, with PS having a bigger footprint on the junior and senior racing scene, it is important that we are supporting these series and these events and these riders and these podcasts and things like that, because it's super important for us that we support the sport that supports us.
Yep.
We couldn't be a business if it wasn't for our customers and our staff alike and the sport and the industry. So, yeah, we're definitely doubling down and we're getting right behind it again for 25 and 26, hopefully. Yeah, so, yep, it's game on.
Yeah, fantastic. And to the riders out there, get behind the brands and the companies that are supporting the sport, because when things get tough, they're the ones that make sure that we've got somewhere to race and someone to service the bikes and somewhere to get our gear. So
yep, spot on, Pete.
Thanks, Dean.
Cool.
All right, as promised, I've got MVMX committee member Kenny Watts on the line, just to give us a bit of a better rundown of what this MX3 and 85 class qualifier for the MXGP is. How you going, Kenny, first of all?
Yeah, Pete, welcome back, mate. Congratulations on fulfilling a great season last year. It's good to be back again.
Thank you, mate. And how's it all been in the lead up for you guys? It's I imagine it's been a lot of work. We're about a week out from round one at Wonthaggi. How's it all been? Has it been smooth sailing or lots of hurdles and hiccups?
No, mate. I think the more experience our committee's getting, the better we've got. I think we were the first state to be ready to announce our state championships and already have things sorted in place. So I think we're the leaders.
Fantastic. So you got much last minute stuff to do, or it's all ready to go?
Not really. I think, we've been hanging out for this. It's probably a little bit earlier than preferred for motocross here in Victoria.
Yep.
But to give the riders that opportunity to race at Wonthaggi in a lead up to it, and they applied, it just it was a no-brainer to not go there. So then it was just coming up with a date that suited Wonthaggi and us, and we went from there. So.
Fantastic. Well, I think it's going to change the dynamic of the series. We're going to have a few rounds at least while the weather hopefully is still pretty good. We got very lucky last year, but the series is a bit more spread out. We've got a lot of other state regional events to fit in the middle, so there's going to be lots of great racing this year. Yeah,
I think so. Look, we're spread out from March right through till August, so hopefully, everybody stays fit and keen and they do some good racing in the meantime, whether it's at ProMX or other events, and come back keen. So.
Yeah, and we've got a round, we spoke about it a little bit earlier, at your stomping ground in Horsham this year for the seniors, which is going to be round 3. That's going to be very cool.
Yeah, first time in 22 years we've had a major change of our track. Nearly all the northern end of our club, of our tracks changed, yeah. So
wow.
Making... Yeah, heaps of big changes going on in Horsham at the moment. So.
Yep. And so what have you done to the track?
So now you'll be able, as a spectator, you can just walk up to the top go-kart corner and straight into the infield. We've redirected the track, and a big tabletop in the centre. It was opposite the finish line. That's been moved down a little bit. The finish line straight's changed. The back straight's changed. The step-up's gone to a new step-up in a different direction, and just having a play, changed the last corner. We had to do that to regain our distance for the start line requirements. So
yep.
It's just started to blow out that little bit, and we lost the metre. So let's change it. So, we're flat out at the moment. So
Very cool, very cool. Well,
yeah.
Reason I called, what can you tell me about this this qualifying setup for the MXGP?
Yeah, I can tell you everything, hopefully. Motorcycling Australia and the FIM are using MX3 and the 85s as support classes for the GP, along with they're going to have the women, the MX2 and the MXGP class there, and the MX3 and the 85s will be support classes and help fill in some gaps that's generated through the 3 days of racing. So
it's going to be a great opportunity for some of our Aussie racers, especially young ones, to race in front of, I think, what will be a huge crowd and an international audience.
Yeah, so this will be, as far as I know, the first time ever that we're running a state challenge the way this has been done. They've invited 6 riders from each state Well, they've given the state controlling bodies the opportunity to send 6 riders. They've requested that we look at running some form of qualifying criteria here in our own state titles to do it. And so we're running an MX3 class on the Saturday of our senior event, replacing the junior light class we ran there last year. And yeah, the top 5 from that plus a wild card, just on they want us to look at Pro MX national results. And there's also something which is, I think, is pretty cool. The top three MX3 riders will get a wild card to the MX2 class. So that's pretty cool, isn't it? Like, so the podium of the MX3 class in the Pro MX will get a wild card to race MX2.
Oh, fantastic. Yep.
Yeah, so hopefully I haven't let that out. Well, yeah, all right. They didn't. Yeah, so...
Breaking news here on the Mental for Moto podcast. Thanks, Kenny. Yeah.
Yeah, I probably put your foot in that. But anyway, I think that's cool. And then they also want us to look at our best state riders racing in the Pro MX, and just in case they miss a round of ours, we don't want to eliminate them. So we've put that wild card option in place, and that will be pretty cool for our kids. We're busily in the background trying to do a little bit of homework with some grants and things like that to assist the riders. So
yes,
we're only not guaranteed, but if we can, we're going to try, because it's the first time they're actually going representing Victoria. So it's not like an Australian Junior Motocross titles or anything where they go and they also get selected to represent the state with the state challenge that the AJMX runs. This is actually their results from our state titles, giving them the opportunity to race for Victoria. So a little bit cool in the way it's been set up by MA. I think a lot of homework's been put into it. So
yep. So just to be clear, the top 6 in the MX3 race at the Vic Titles that's going to be held on the Saturday of the senior rounds will qualify for the MXGP MX3 class. And then... No?
Top 5.
Top 5.
Top 5 from our state titles and a wild card.
Okay, yeah.
We'll invite a wild card. It could be our top 6.
Yes.
Like it could play that way, but in case for one reason or another, one of our
top riders,
is unable to make one round and doesn't qualify, and we don't want to leave the best rider in Victoria out. We want to send our best riders there. So they put that in their little thing, and just we had to amend the wording in our sub-regs to make sure that it was clarified. So it's top 5 and a wild card. Our MX3 at the Vic Titles will be going off to represent them. So
yep. And is that same setup carry across then to the 85s?
Yes. So the 85s we'll be looking at our 85 A grade class for that.
Yes.
With the top 5 and a wild card. So again.
And that 85 class will be racing at the juniors though?
Yes. Yeah, they'll race at the juniors. So this weekend, the 85s are racing the Pro MX Nationals at Wonthaggi for round 1. So we've invited them along.
Yes.
And given them the opportunity, given our riders the opportunity to go to Wonthaggi, race the track under racing conditions. So, because we're going to have all powers and vets and ladies and the MX3 class racing. So the track will end up a racy track. So give our kids the best opportunity to have a ride before the Pro MX. And that's just a standalone invitational ride that we're doing for that alone. And then we're going to replicate that again at Traralgon later on with the 65. So,
fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, looking after our state riders and giving the kids the chance to come along and have a ride. And some of them may even turn senior next year, so they get to have a look at what the senior rounds are also run like. So,
yeah, for sure. So with Darwin securing the MXGP for multiple years, is this going to be something that we do every year at the state round?
I hope so. Yeah, I really do. And, if we can get a grant over the line, because they're actually going off representing our state and have been invited, because we'll be inviting them, they'll get an official invitation to race for us. Hopefully that can sneak a grant in our favour and get some financial assistance to help get our riders up there, which I think would be pretty cool. And I'm also, for those people that are in a good position and, maybe it's just assistance with fuel cards, anyone that's out there that thinks shit, this is pretty cool for our kids, and you're in a position, and it's a little bit of a tax dodge. Have a yak to me or Nikki or Kirsty and even Jason, just catch up with one of us and say, look, our company might be in a position to help them out a little bit too. So if we can help our kids get to that would be good. It's a big expense to go. And, mate, I'm going as a spectator all the way to Darwin to watch a GP. And they're going to get the chance to race in it.
Yes, yeah.
They'll be in the pits with the factory teams and everything, and then they get that Sunday off. So they get to just spectate as Sunday, but they're going to have that pass that gets them into all the good spots. So I reckon it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, what an opportunity. And I mentioned it earlier when I was talking with Dean. We were just chatting about how strong some of our junior classes and junior riders are coming through the Victorian ranks. I think, would you agree, like we're sort of heading into potentially another golden era of motocross, especially by the time that these kids that are racing the junior classes at the moment reach seniors? If they stick with it, the sport in this country is definitely going to be potentially on the map internationally.
Well, I hope so. All we can do is point it in the right direction and offer race meetings for them to go out and try and excel with. And we've got, the 65 kids like Lewis Caraff has stepped up now to 85 big wheel.
Yep.
So he'll be one of the younger ones, but I think he's still hungry. So he's going to be, pushing to represent and all the boys that are there, because a couple have stepped up from last year. So it sort of opens the door on the 85 class, and that MX3 class would be pretty cool, I think. So to get the MX3 class over the line, because we run MX2 and MX1 graded racing for our state championships, which is our championship classes, the A grade. In MX1 and MX2, the ladies is a championship class, and also the 40 to 49 vets is our state championship class. To get that MX3 class over the line, it was like we had to convince them that we didn't want to affect our own state championships, but we also wanted to give our riders the opportunity to get that chance to represent. So we'll be running them on the Saturday, and similar scenario to what the Pro MX is, to stay in the MX3 class. Just can't step up to that MX2 or MX1 on that day.
Yes.
So we've got it that you won't be able to step up and race all powers on the day. But really, what's your priority? Do you want to race for Victoria on the MX3 class, or do you want a second ride on the day?
Yeah. So will that class, the MX3 class, be open to the traditional age group of 14 to 18?
Yes. Yep. All age group, but no grading. So she's a non-graded event.
Best of the best.
And best of the best. And that's what we want to send off. Like whether, there was an exemption given to Caden Minier a couple of years ago to race the first ever MX3 class, because his birthday fell just after the first round.
Yep.
And we know the outcome of that. He wasn't even old enough, and he ended up winning. So, and now he's racing in America. So I think what MA's done with the MX3 class is a no-brainer for our kids. And if you're a good junior and you get the opportunity to race those 16 and 17-year-old senior riders and you can beat them, good on you. But if you can't, that means that we've got good 16 and 17-year-old riders also. So
for sure.
It's good, isn't it?
Oh, I love it, mate. I love it. I'm so excited for round one. Yeah, can't wait.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you coming on the line to give us some clarification on that as well, Kenny. And
no, hopefully I've explained it enough. And just in doubt, just jump on the messenger. It's Motocross Management, and talk to the girls and myself, or send us a message or whatever. For anyone that's keen and a little bit hesitant, come and have a ride. Don't worry about it. If you're good enough, let's try it.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kenny. And look forward to seeing you in a week's time.
No worries, mate. Keen as.
No, thanks, Kenny. And that brings us to the end of our first Peter Stevens Vic MX show, presented by Moto Cred. Thanks to Dean Mosig and Kenny Watts for joining me to preview the 2025 season, and to everyone that's tuned in to listen. If you like the show, please take the time to share and give us a positive review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your preferred listening platform, as it will help us grow the show. I can't wait for the racing to kick off next weekend, and I'm really looking forward to catching you all at round one. On behalf of Mental for Moto, I've been your host, Pete Wolf. Until then, see ya.